Imagine Berlin in the mid-19th century, outside a residence shrouded in the grey morning mist. Every morning at 6 o'clock, a thin, elderly man with an extremely rhythmic gait would appear. Dressed in a navy blue uniform tailored to perfection, holding a black cane, his gaze would sweep past the sleeping streets toward the distant horizon. He required no entourage, no cheers, not even the understanding of the world. His name was Lebenbach. Tonight, let us accompany the flickering firelight and this story you need not struggle to remember, as we step into the true story of his life. He was the loneliest chief of staff behind the Prussian Iron Cross, the man who decided Europe's century-long borders in silence. He possessed the power to mobilize 1,000,000 troops in an instant and turn a continent to ash, yet in his later years, he chose to ponder how a single seed pierces the frozen soil during his morning walks. This is a story about order, about restraint, and about a profound reverence for life beneath that mask of extreme coolness. Lebenbach's life seemed fixed on a track by some precise algorithm from the moment he was born. He did not come from a traditional Junker family craving medals. He was more like a mathematician who had wandered into the barracks by mistake. While fellow young officers discussed honor and duels in taverns, Lebenbach sat in empty tactical classrooms, using charcoal to precisely calculate marching loads for every mile on a map. He walked the midnight corridors, his silhouette stretched long by the lamplight. This extreme regularity made those around him feel an inexplicable unease. You must understand that in an era that worshipped heroes on horseback, Lebenbach's scholar's composure was a conspicuous rift. He realized that war was no longer a blood-pumping charge, but an exchange of resources, a complex game of railways, telegraphs, and actuarial precision. He became extremely silent, a silence that was not arrogance but a defensive line built to filter out emotional interference. He spent most of his youth in survey teams on the frontiers, learning how to speak with the land amidst solitary mountains and rivers. This obsession with the objective laws of the physical world made him feel he owed Prussia no slogans. He only owed history a precise answer sheet. In 1857, Lebenbach finally entered the black hole of power known as the General Staff. Sitting at that massive desk covered with maps of European provinces, listening to the passionate expansionist plans of politicians, his heart remained like an ancient well. He did not love expansion, but he was obsessed with solving problems. As Chief of Staff, he exhibited a rare lucidity. He deconstructed war into a massive timetable. He even told his subordinates, "Do not tell me of the soldiers' courage, tell me of the railway scheduling nodes and the tonnage of the supply stations." This cold precision did not win him friends in Berlin salons. Instead, he was viewed by political rivals as a walking typewriter. Yet, it was this very typewriter who, at the most anxious moments of the Franco-Prussian War, still insisted on drinking a light cup of black tea at 4 every afternoon and reading half a volume of ancient Greek philosophy. He realized that all of Berlin, and indeed all of Europe, was turning into a powder keg ignited by nationalism, with irrational shadows lurking behind every cheer. Thus, at the pinnacle of power, Lebenbach made a gesture that both terrified and reassured the world. With his famous red and blue pencil, he drew one disciplined defensive line after another upon the map. During his 30 years leading the Prussian army, Lebenbach established his own war laboratory. He was not just drafting operational plans but attempting to construct an ultimate order capable of defeating human greed. In the offices of the General Staff, no loud voices were heard all day, only the rustle of nibs gliding across parchment. Here they simulated conflicts that might occur decades later, detailing even the strength of every crossing and every bridge. This extreme calmness formed the ghostly, profound shadow of Lebenbach's final years. He liked to sit alone by the office window at sunset, watching the movement of fictional forces on the map as if observing the orbits of a star system. Some said he was a star without warmth, but if you could have watched his silhouette in that moment, you would have found no murderous intent, only a deep compassion for the human fate falling into chaos. He became an operator wandering the boundary between destruction and construction. He no longer needed medals to prove himself. He only needed to stand guard over that fragile balance called peace in this dusty office. In silent calculations, Lebenbach finally attained a cold but real freedom belonging to mathematics. In his later years, Lebenbach's face had withered like an old military chart due to years of self-discipline and thought, yet the logic within him grew ever clearer. He watched young officers hurrying through the corridors, their eyes flashing with a hunger for glory. He knew these young people would eventually bring down the empire through their fanaticism, but he merely sighed softly during his morning steps. Order is prepared for the wise, while impulse is the sacrifice prepared for history. This indifference, seeing through everything yet keeping his lips sealed, was his heaviest resolve. In his late-night journals, he wrote the ultimate summary of power, words that were extremely restrained and carried a touch of divinity. He described the essence of power: it is so heavy, yet so hollow, like a silent endgame played on ice. Every dusk in Berlin, he would observe the water levels of the Thames or the Spree, It was his final way of communing with nature. There, he was no longer the most fearsome commander in Europe, nor the officer bound by rules. He was merely Lebenbach, a speck of dust seeking balance in the rhythms of the universe. This shift from extreme precision to extreme transcendence allowed his life, before it faded, to radiate a dignity as hard and clean as marble. One midnight in 1891, Lebenbach closed his eyes forever in his bed at the residence. When the news reached the front, there was no anticipated wailing. The entire camp fell into a deathly, Lebenbachesque silence. He left with extreme quietude, as if merely completing a resignation report precise to the second. He answered the question from the prologue. He lost a life he could have squandered, but won an ultimate victory over self-discipline. And you now, do you also feel that century-old peace, as stable as a mechanical pendulum? Prussia's iron hooves have long turned to dust, and Berlin's offices have weathered the storms. Only Lebenbach's lonely endgame remains in the midnight of history, like a faint lamp that will never go out. This is a power that does not need to roar, a finale belonging to a professional soul. Tonight, may you drift to sleep with the rhythm in Lebenbach's steps and the stability brought by that extreme calmness. The world is now quiet. It is time for you to lay down the disturbances of reality. Good night.